Hey everyone, how's it going? By everyone, I mean Tim. How are you, Tim?
Yeah, I'm doing great. What about yourself?
Very good. I wanted to actually ask you, what have you been playing lately? Like, what are you up to?
Ooh, that's actually a question we should kind of talk about more often because we didn't get a chance. So to let you guys know, we have a Tuesday when you this is going to be on Tuesday of this coming up week. Our first podcast. So last week's going to be on, so we're a little behind, but now going forward, we're going to be set up. But yeah, I've been playing. Believe it or not, I still play a lot of card games and also my digital board games. I love those, but I will be getting into one of the topics we're going to talk about a little bit later. One of Sony's PC games, Helldivers 2, which is a sequel to a very popular game that they had. We'll be talking about that a little bit more in the podcast, but I've been going to be playing that. Also, uh, Power World, I'm going to, once the Xbox Game Pass, because I have a Game Pass, so it's on that, so free wide by the Steam version. I'm going to be playing that with buddies as well once the cross play's implemented. And yeah, I love myself good survival games too. But what about you, Jared? What have you been playing? I know we got our nice review on. You could talk about that real quick.
Yeah, well, by the time everyone sees this, the review will probably be long dead. But like, yeah, I reviewed what is it, Dragon Quest Monsters 3, or as it's known here as The Dark Prince. But that's not actually what I've been playing. What I've been playing is more and more of this bad boy right over here. The oh boy, you can barely see it.
There you go.
The Analog Pocket. I got to tell you guys, this whole FPGA thing of like hardware emulation. I know everyone has been like telling me for ages, like, you got to try the Mister. Like, you got to try it. It's so awesome. It basically does hardware emulation, so not software emulation, on every platform known to man, basically, which is super cool. Like, don't get me wrong, that's super, super, super cool. However, the added benefit of the Analog Pocket is I get to take it everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, like, I played RoboCop from the arcades from like 1989, 1990, whatever it was.
Man, that's a blast from the. I remember that. I used to play a lot that. You remember back in the days when we were kids, arcades were the thing. And
Yeah, man.
man, I kind of miss them, but at the same time, I don't. You sit in your couch playing co-op with people. So, not your
What I
couch, but
miss,
you know
what I miss? I missed the kind of like the allure of like, you never knew what was going to show up. So you'd go one day and you
Yes.
were like, oh wow, that's so cool. There's, this or that or whatever. But yeah, dude, man, like RoboCop arcade perfect on a portable. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. But no, I've been playing a lot of Shining Force.
Oh man, we were talking about that in chats, but yeah, that's such a great series. Again, of course, we'll have to have a topic about Sega and their mess ups and some other podcasts. We have a lot to talk about today, but it's just, yeah, series was great. As you said before, too, the Golden Sun, which Nintendo will they ever make another one, or force Camelot to make yeah, that's such a highly requested thing from Nintendo's fan base, and it's just amazing that it hasn't had any updates in years. But it is on what's it called though? If you have the expansion for the
The Switch
Nintendo
Online.
service, you get
Yeah.
So you guys can play the original two. So I
Yeah.
highly recommend it if you've never had of it, have and you have the service. But
Yeah, they're basically full on RPGs, but like set in that, well, at least what I call set in that same like universe. And if you're a fan of like any of the Shining games pre, what would I say, like PS2 era, like before that, when Camelot actually when they were called Sonic Software Planning.
oh yeah, God, that's another blast. There's people that are going to watch this video and say,
Yeah, exactly. But it's what I love about that company is like, it's such an interesting story how they went from like literally like hardcore strategy RPGs and stuff like that to sports. I don't think that's ever happened, like, ever. Like, it's so like, to me anyway, it's such a bizarre sort of thing. And when they did make Golden Sun on the Game Boy Advance way back, I was so excited because as soon as it starts, the sound effects are all taken from the Shining series. The graphics, like the style, is all taken from like Shining the Holy Ark and stuff like that. And I just like the minute that booted up, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be special," because it was like harkening back. And I think there's gonna be a lot of people surprised because I'm gonna do a retro review of Shining Force, and I think there's gonna be a lot of folks that are gonna be really surprised because of all the Genesis games, it's one of the most like un-Genesis games. And what I mean by that is like Sega, like they had like, especially on the Genesis, like the games had like a certain sound to them. They had like a certain color palette that they would go for and stuff. But when you put on a Shining game, I don't know what it is. Like it doesn't feel like a Sega game. Like the music is like so radically different than anything else on there. The color palettes were all super bright, and the medieval setting was like a jokative sort of like setting and stuff. But anyways, we'll talk about that later on. But that's what I'm doing. As soon as this is over, I'm gonna put that up. I'm gonna go sit on the sofa, play a little more, because I'm having a blast, and it's held up shockingly well.
Exactly. Thinking of what games I want to play, I do want to get that. I can't believe it's been 20 years old. The remake of Mario versus Donkey Kong. That was such a gem back in the day. I'm not, and people know this, especially with Cranberry. I tell her because she's more of a retro gamer. She loves. I'm not. Once I play a title, I move on. I expect, I progress. I'm not much into the old school. Not that I disrespect those titles. It's just I've already played it. Why play it again? It's a waste of time, waste of money. But that though is they did add some new levels, and it holds a special spot. So I was like, okay, I'll get that. So I'm definitely looking forward to dabbing in that again. But yeah, let's get on because we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Well, go for it, man. This is all you.
All right, perfect. So first things first, if anyone's been following, especially the fandoms out there, they love their console wars. There's a big rumor right now that Microsoft's going to leave hardware and go completely, utterly third party. Now, that I could understand the philosophy behind that because they're buying all these studios. They're making their brand with the Xbox, Game Pass, etc. I can understand that they want their app on your mobile device, your Switch 3, Switch whatever, PlayStation 6, etc., etc. And ultimately, obviously, they're already on PC. But they're not leaving hardware, guys. At least I'd be extremely surprised at that. And there's a couple things to back that up. One, they held an internal meeting. Of course, this is technically a rumor, but it's pretty. So they assured their employees that they are not leaving hardware for the foreseeable future. Also, we're getting from Spencer. It promised a business update in the week of February 12th, where Microsoft possibly will repeat the proposed hardware publicly. So that's coming up in a couple of days, actually. So we'll definitely know some more information. But what has, and we know for a fact, is they did sign a hardware agreement with AMD just last month. Now, that kind of added fuel to the fire because that was kind of delayed. It was a little bit late. So they were thinking, oh, they're not going to be going into the console market. But no, they are. And this town meeting is, and some of these interesting quotes online too is like, oh, Microsoft's pulled a Sega. So yeah, that was funny that, people online, they're keyboard warriors, man. They kind of jumped the gun, but nah. So they had an internal meeting. They just signed with AMD. I don't see them leaving hardware anytime soon because it is part of their and plus Microsoft reportedly told employees they won't pull a Sega. So that's where that rumor came from about it. So it actually came from the internal to their employees. But again, the details of these internal meetings are obviously confidential. But yeah, I don't think they're leaving. And plus, it's their strategy is to include hardware for at least the foreseeable future, too, is what their meeting has said. So I don't think they're leaving hardware, man, at least not next gen. Maybe the gen after this, maybe.
Okay.
Depends.
I'm going to put my business hat on here, okay?
Here we go, guys.
If they focus exclusively on their own hardware, they have no chance of success. Because you have to look at the money that they have invested in all of the acquisitions that they've done. In order to make money back on all of those things, you need literally hundreds of millions of people to buy your product. Now,
Right.
are they going to leave hardware? Absolutely not. That makes no sense. Why would you do that? Like it, what I think is going to happen is you'll get your successor to the Xbox Series X. You know, you'll get that. They'll put all their products on there. They'll still have, if it's the most powerful console, it'll still look the best for their titles and whatnot. But I ran some numbers last year, I think it was, when they were first talking about the Activision Blizzard buyout, and I was just like, does anyone realize just how much money like this is, and how much it's going to cost to like recoup all of this? This is not going to happen overnight, right?
Oh no.
And now the height of Microsoft's success in hardware for consoles, let's look it up here, sorry for my typing, but was the Xbox 360 worldwide sales. This was the most successful, was 85.7 million.
Which is actually respectful.
No, that's fantastic. But
yeah.
but 85.7 million does not get you the billions of dollars that you're going to need. And don't forget, guys, this is one of the things that actually did kill Sega. So Sega, we won't go into the whole thing right now, but like one of the big things was they had so many developers that were under their umbrella, and they kept supporting. I mean, Steve and I have talked about this like ad nauseum now. But they supported so many platforms, right? I mean, at one point, they had the Sega Saturn, the Genesis, the Master System, the 32X, the Sega CD, and Game Gear all being supported in an official capacity. Now, that was not long before Sega cut that. But the point was, like, they were bleeding in the development side, paying all those salaries, all these developers, third party, whatever, plus the hardware side. At least with Microsoft, they're not stupid. Like, but they have to realize. I mean, I run my own company, and like guys, no, like they have to release this on other platforms. It's not a choice. Like they've spent too much money.
Exactly. And I would like to add too about the whole thing about as an Xbox, I personally have Xbox Game Pass PC. That doesn't affect the console side because I don't have any of the. I'm not a console person. That's besides the point. So for PC, it's a little bit different for me compared to your console folks, because consoles are still a huge, substantial amount of the market. It does devalue. Like if you're an Xbox owner, right, the hardware, and you say, "Oh shoot, there's no reason for me to have an Xbox because it comes out with every other platform, PlayStation, Switch, and PC." But they are not leaving hardware, guaranteed that too. I do think we need to talk about, and we'll be talking about this a little bit later with some other topics, is exclusive stuff. They will release their product on their platforms first.
Exactly.
So that way it's incentive for you to become an Xbox.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like, okay, so like everybody stop. Like if you're really thinking that like, oh, that's it, they're going to get out of the hardware race and all of this, it's like, no, guys, stop. Just stop. Like that is not happening. I assure you that is not happening, because yet again, it comes down to the finances. It doesn't make any sense. Like, if I can get you on PC, if I can get you, and when I say get you, revenue, if I can get revenue from PlayStation, if I can get revenue from Nintendo, I can get revenue from PC, why in the blue blazes wouldn't I get revenue from myself? And it's so easy to incentivize, because all they have to do is exactly what you said, Tim. Like, just a 6 months exclusive bracket. Every game that we release, and we release 5 million now because we own every developer in the world, like, if you come to us, you get it 6 months earlier. There you go.
That's a very, very powerful tool. We'll talk about that a little bit later, more in depth about Disney's news this week, by the way. So we'll save that a little bit later in the podcast. But yeah, that's a very powerful tool, because I'll list some examples of how exclusives actually is great for said platform and bad for other platforms. So yeah, Microsoft's smart. They're investing heavily into gaming, and
Well, yeah.
remember too that they got deep pockets because they make most of their money, believe it or not, still on the PC side. There's hands down. That's where their substantial amount of income comes through. They're in a beautiful place that can take risks. Like I told you, Xbox, if it was any other company, dude, they would have gone belly up years ago.
Well, yeah, of course. You can't be... Look at Sega. Like, that's what killed Sega. Like, you can't be in the red multiple generations. Like, you can't. It's crazy. But yeah, guys, and like again, everybody needs to just take a chill pill here. Like, relax. Because we also don't know what it is that is their plan. You know what I mean? Like, if they release like the Halo Master Chief Collection on the PlayStation 5 today, do you really care? Like does anyone legitimately care right now? Like, I think the idea of permanent exclusives is coming to an end, and it guys, it should come to an end. This is not like, you know, the Nintendo, Sega era type of thing here, guys. Like, video games today cost hundreds of millions of dollars. It's like, I look at like The Last of Us, right? Crazy budget on that game. Don't tell me that like Sony wouldn't say, giddy up to another 50 million sales. Are you kidding?
Oh. Yeah, so true. Funny you bring that up. We'll be talking about that in a minute as well, about Sony's recent news. So yeah, there's a lot. And companies are not stupid, guys, because one of the reasons too that the Xbox sale was delayed because Sony had put a lawsuit about Call of Duty. They wanted to make sure that does not leave their system. And Microsoft, they're smart, like you said. They don't worry, Sony. Don't worry. It'll come to your system, and that just shows you how drastically history's changed with Sony. They're so much focused on the Western market. They left Japan years ago, and there's a reason for that because Nintendo owns that.
Follow the money, dude. That's what what it's all about. You got to follow. Japan used to be one of the biggest markets, but today it's dominated by mobile. Like even Nintendo, yes, they have they're the most successful company that's in Japan, but even them, look at the sales. Like globally, it's like Switch, like you said to me, like in text, it's like it's the highest selling platform in the history of Japan. That's amazing, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But globally, if we were to pull in like everything, like that market, I don't want to say it's been saturated. That's a little much, but I do think it's plateaued. Like I think if you put all gaming together, I think in Japan, like it's sort of hit that sort of ceiling or close to the ceiling, whereas in North America and Europe, you still have a lot of monies that can be made there, which is why these companies are like, okay, if I release it at home and I, big hoopla la, it's, what, 3 million, 4 million sales. If I release it like in the US and Canada and, Mexico and across Europe, it's like 100 million. Gee, I wonder which one am I gonna, I'm gonna focus on.
Yeah, because remember when we were growing up, Japan was like the golden mecca of the gaming market. We would always get things 6 months to a year after Japanese release, the console, all that. Now, no, it's day one worldwide, and it's way different than when we were kids. We used to sit there, oh man, it's gonna take forever to get this shit.
Dude, it's so funny. I remember like the Nintendo Powers of the time and stuff, and reading, and they're like, I'm like, Super Mario Brothers 4 for a new platform, that's gonna be glorious. Meanwhile, in reality, it was already out in Japan. It's great, but everything changed, right? The internet changed, everything's changed. It's crazy. We're old, man. We're old.
We are old. So probably like some viewers are like, what the hell's all these old games? But before we close out the Xbox, if you are an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, you can try the Paramount's Plus free for just in time for the second season of Halo TV series. So if you guys do have that, you might want to take advantage of it. You get to see it for a month. Now through April 7th, so you got plenty of time. So yeah, anyone who's a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, you got a little incentive to try it out, and it needs to be redeemed through May 10th, 2024.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see, I am so curious. Do you know when is that Direct or whatever it is. They I forget what they call it, but because that's coming up. I thought it was like the week of the 12th or something.
Yeah, that's in 2 days we're supposed to be getting some information that supports the. They're probably going to announce their new Xbox.
Well, they said new. It's like our new business direction or something like that. Something like that. Probably.
Yeah, and that's rumor about the Eternal Memory is meeting is they said that they'll be addressing the whole rumors about them leaving hardware.
Yeah, that's just silly though. Like, I mean, if we come back next week and do this, and they've left hardware,
we will probably. Yeah.
I will be like,
I'll be shocked.
No, me too. I'd be like, I don't even understand what. Like, I won't, because it goes against the business.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
And I think the business update that Spence was talking about on February 12th, that'll happen in a couple of days, is I think we won't really get like the official unrevealing, like Jarrod, but we will get some information of them saying, hey guys, don't worry, and etc. I don't think we're going to get any big announcement of that. Just an overview of their.
Exactly. And I think it's like, like I keep saying, like, look at their games. How are their exclusives performing right now? And if they're not performing 20 million, 30 million, because like we don't even know what the official sales of the Series X are, not officially.
Correct.
So like we don't, like, we're talking out of our ass right now because we don't like, if that platform's only sold 20 million units, well then guys, it's over. Like, they have no choice, or they're basically going to be bleeding money like crazy. It'll take them like 500 years to recoup the money that they spend.
Exactly. So yeah, Microsoft knows what they're doing. They don't waste money at that level, and we will close that up topic. I wanted to say the Steam Next Fest is going on right now until but by the time people see this, it's over, so there's no point to really talk about that. But there's a lot of great demos.
But Tim, I might put this one sooner to the last episode, especially considering if there is that Microsoft news, we want to make sure that we get that out.
That's a good idea. Really, really good idea.
Yeah.
So that way it won't be old news.
No, exactly. I
want
to hear your reaction and my reaction to this and see what's what.
And we'll definitely be having, guys, the reaction. We're probably going to most likely get this podcast weekly. We've been doing it twice back to back, so we'll definitely keep
as long as you don't disappear on me.
That. Oh, heck, do I ever disappear, man? So... Disney's making some rambling news. I mean, there's been a lot of negative stuff about the Marvel cinematic universe right now, like the Marvels? Yeah, the Marvels utterly flopped in the United States. It's done okay internationally, but anyways, so there's been a lot of negativity about Disney, and we won't go into all that. We're not, we talk about, we'll try to keep it realistic, not opinions, because everyone has an opinion, and sometimes those opinions are garbage. Oh, no disrespect for anyone, but anyways, so Disney made some big news in the gaming industry. They have bought 1.5 billion to acquire a stake in Epic Games. Mm-hmm. Wow, that came out of literally nowhere. So for you guys to know, I used to work at Disney, and during my time at Disney, they did have their internal development for what's it called, gaming, but they decided, screw it, we're not. Let's focus on our core businesses. They got rid of it, and they just wanted to license their IPs. But this a little bit different from licensing their IPs, because they're actually buying. I mean, they don't have huge. They have a decent chunk, so obviously.
Did they give a percentage? Like, how much did they actually buy?
Well, last year the Epic's Games was worth 22.9 billion. So, and they got acquired an equality. So I don't know how much. It doesn't go into.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But that seems like that's quite a sizable chunk of the company that they just purchased.
It is. So they didn't flat out. Some people are saying, "Oh, here goes Disney buying everything." No, they didn't buy it. Now, this is interesting for a couple of reasons. I wanted to talk. I don't know if you're familiar with Epic Games. I think you've bought some games on there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I buy, and I actually get. They offer every week, guys. FYI, they offer free games, so it's no incentive not to at least get their platform. Now, I understand people like Steam's out there, they're number one by a mile, and people don't want multiple platforms. But there's a lot of negativity about Epic Games. One, people hate the fact that they buy exclusives, which is something I wanted to talk about that Microsoft hasn't done directly in comparison. So, but basically, Microsoft has bought a lot of companies, so they're going to have exclusives. But it's a little bit different from this because it's technically internal, right? First party, second party. Epic's, what they do is they go out and they go to a said developer and say, hey, come to us. We'll pay you said money for you to have an exclusive for 6 to 8 months to a year. Most of the time it's a year, sometimes it's 6. So it's very lucrative for a company to come in here and say, oh, shoot, we're going to basically make our money back without even selling a copy.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's different levels of agreements. There's a great thing about that and bad things about that. The great thing is it creates traction for Epic, right? Bad thing is people don't like that because they think it's creating monopolies and et cetera, which isn't true, and they can't get it on their platform, so they wait. What's good about it from a developer's perspective, less risk, you get guaranteed income no matter the sales. The bad thing is for a developer too, though, is when they release a year later on Steam, or this is mostly on the PC side or even console, by then the hype's gone and they don't really sell that well on the secondary platform. So it's interesting to see Disney do this. So I'm assuming that Disney's going to make their games exclusive to Epic Game Stores, which is going to be weird. Well, not weird, but really different because now Epic's kind of going to be a huge competitor to Steam. And they are, and they're not. What's going to be good about this is, let's make no mistake, guys, Disney sells like hotcakes. They make basically whatever they put out most of the time sells extremely well. So it's going to be interesting to see. And Disney's said stuff there. Our new exciting relationship with Epic Games will bring together Disney's beloved brands and franchises for truly popular Fortnite in a transformable new games and entertainment. Except that's just bullshit PR, right? But what do you what's your initial thoughts about this? Obviously, they're going to be investing a substantial amount of money and time into that platform. A lot of hate for Epic Game Stores out there, but I personally don't. Guys, it's gaming. Who cares what platform you're on? Don't be childish.
I can't wait to see the comments.
There's going to be comments.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be childish. Who are you to tell me?
Well, or should I say be immature? But this whole fandom stuff is crap. It really is.
Look, like I've said for years now, it's like the days of this stuff are long over. It's back in the day you could get away with it because 3 people can make a game. Yeah, like a blockbuster, exactly. Like a blockbuster game, and like, my God. Today, I mean, it's like a Hollywood production. It's hundreds of employees all over the world that are doing this, and it's just silly. To be really honest, it's silly. Like it just doesn't make any sense. The pretty much the only company that gets away with this now is Nintendo because they can. Like they can afford to do that. Their games, usually the way they design and develop, they're not investing hundreds of millions of dollars into their titles. And so, they're able to do this. But your Sonys and your Microsofts, like, we're really coming to the end of this, like the way we look at gaming as a whole. Because could you imagine, like, music? Could you just imagine? It's like, you can't listen to your music on Apple Music. It's exclusive to Spotify. Oh, no, you can't. Like, are you for real? Like,
you made an uproar about that too. People would go fanatic.
Yeah, exactly. Like people would get and it's like, and yes, don't get me wrong. Like there's albums that will launch on a specific platform or something like that. But even books and stuff like that, like pretty much now you can get these things everywhere, from Kindle to your Rokus or whatever they're called, and like all these different devices and stuff. And there's a reason for that. Why would you limit your sales?
Exactly.
Like that doesn't make any sense at all. And yes, I get it. Like from a hardware standpoint, of course, right? Like Sony's like, well, we're killing it with our PlayStation 5. Like why are we going to release on a competitor's, platform type of thing? But you've seen them move more and more into PC. And,
we're going to be talking about that
And like, it's funny because they act like they're surprised. Like, oh wow, it actually sold well. It's like, what are you like, guys? What?
Oh,
like,
man.
but anyways, about Disney and Epic, I think, yeah, I mean, I don't really have like it is what it is for me. Like, I really don't care. I'll buy the game on the platform that it's on, but I do wish like for services, just have a handful. Like don't go crazy, because otherwise it starts getting ridiculous when you have all these different things. It's sort of like the consoles. Like, I'm so done, man. I'm so done. It's like, I just wish you could do sort of like what I'm doing with the Pocket here, where it's like, okay, if I'm on my television, yeah, I have like the super deluxe whatever version that you can connect in, plays all your games, whatever. When I'm on the go, I have this other one, but it plays same game, same save, same, like all of that. Now, I know you got to be careful because you don't want to have a monopoly either. Otherwise, the hardware starts to go up to like, $5,000. But I do think Microsoft's approach, I mean, we'll see. But I do think that like they're going to do this right. Like, I think it's going to be, you will have your Xbox exclusives and stuff, but it's all going to be like timed exclusive stuff. I'm sure of it.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure that the Disney, who knows what they're going to do. They haven't really set a lot of plans, but we do know a lot of their franchises are going to come out. Disney's games, if you look historically, have been successful, wouldn't you say?
For the most part, yeah, sure.
Yeah, they haven't been like, they haven't set a lot of records, but a lot of the platforming games in the past have been extremely successful. So Disney's definitely been in gaming for a long time, but this is their big first push into actually owning or investing heavily into gaming, and it's really good for Epic Game Stores, because Disney, no matter all the hatred out there about how Disney's going this, Disney's unfocused, they're shoving stuff down our throat. Besides all that, we're not going to get political here. They've been they're a very lucrative IP. Their IPs are very lucrative. Now remember, Disney is also Mickey Mouse, Goofy, but Marvel, and Marvel is huge right now, guys. So yeah, that's going to be for Epic Game Stores. It's going to be very, very good for them, because one of the reasons, like I was saying, is a lot of hate towards that platform is because people don't like the exclusives. Like, oh, that's wrong, I want to get it on Steam on day one. I can understand it. People, I personally would rather have one launcher, believe it or not.
Yeah, of course.
Be done with it.
Yeah.
Because having multiple launchers, it's cumbersome. And then besides the point. But I don't really have dislike. And there's also concerns about Epic because they have a Chinese ownership, partial Chinese ownership. So there's a lot of people who says, "Oh, our data's being stolen." I love when people say that, or they're tracking us. There's a lot of laws about data, guys. If you ever want to look into it, a lot of laws. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been shady stuff by companies, of course, but Epic's is a big multi-billion-dollar industry company. There's no reason they would be stupid to risk that kind of lawsuit and damage your brand. But I love when people say they're tracking us or trying to steal data, when yet right here, I don't know if you can see it, the ultimate tracking GPS device.
Exactly.
I'm sitting there complaining online on my thing.
Yes, exactly.
Where you're at. So if you're a true diehard or true rebel, get rid of your phone and then we'll talk. Again, we don't want to get too political, but
I love
just find
this.
it
It's
funny.
so funny. It's so funny.
It's funny, dude. Because
we
we're
can't...
mature, right?
We're so mature.
Rather than.
But we can't move on from Disney without talking about these other things with Elon Musk now starting to push into that. There was this video that was circulating the other day that made me laugh. He's with like one of Disney's top shareholders, and they're like, "Oh, what are you guys doing together?" And Elon's like, "Oh, I'm just thinking of my next acquisition." It's just like,
good luck with that. Disney's huge, guys. It's going to take a lot of money. I mean, that guy is arrogant. He's a bit of a loose cannon, but I think a lot of that's just his personality. At the end of the day, he's a businessman, and what he does behind closed doors is not so radical. I mean, he said some amazing things, but some of these guys are like, again, we don't want to get too, but like Donald Trump, he thrives on that energy of, he makes a comment, he loves that reaction, but now Trump's not one of the, has made billions being an idiot. No matter what you guys think of him on a personal level, the man knows what he's doing. So yeah, Elon Musk kind of reminds me of a Trump, like this dude just feeds on energy, right? So yeah, I don't know. If he's going to buy Disney, it's going to be a lot of moolah.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of money because I don't
realize how
like
how big Disney is.
You know, that's the thing,
they
man.
own a shit ton of stuff.
Yeah. The market cap on a company like that is huge, man. So, yeah. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So, it's going to be interesting to see the future of Epic Games going forward. I'm actually looking forward to it. Let's switch gears, and since we're going to talk about Sony next, and then we'll finish up with some Nintendo stuff. So Sony, we were talking about how they are doing about Helldivers 2 blasts on top of Steam's global top-selling chart, becoming Sony's biggest PC release as it launches alongside PlayStation 5, and which I'm going to be getting this game, guys. Maybe I'll make some videos. I haven't done videos for our main channel for a while, so I'm probably going to capture some gameplay of it. But Helldivers 2, which Helldivers 1 was a very cool, popular game for Sony, and this one though has done pretty good for them on the PC. So again, Sony's been supporting the PC a lot. You could get The Last of Us, the God of War, day one release, Helldivers 2, so it wasn't exclusive to just the PlayStation. So yeah, like you said, Jarrod, these exclusives are a way of old ways of the old world, and it's not going to be so common anymore. And again, people could say, well, the PC and console don't really hurt each other, which is true. So, but there's no reason why Sony cannot be releasing their big sellers on different platforms from day one. I don't know if they're going to be releasing on Xbox anytime soon, but I'm glad that, because I'm a PC guy, I love it. I get to play Helldivers 2 just like all you PlayStation 5 peeps, and it did extremely well, and that's good to hear.
Yeah, like I've been saying forever, man. I've been saying this for honestly, I think the last 3 console generations, that guys, who cares? Who cares? The more your title is available to people, that's a good thing. People our age, there are Steve, okay? Steven, he's a great example, because you see the negative that comes from exclusivity. And he's my go-to example when I talk about this. And why is because he had a Super Nintendo, and he played his Super Nintendo, did his whole thing, had his Super NES, as he calls it. But he never experienced the Genesis to the same level as people who did own a Genesis when it first came out in 1989. There were 2 years. People forget that. There were 2 years where Sega had a vastly more powerful console. And for people like me, I mean, this was unbelievable. Going from the NES to the Genesis was
huge, dude.
What
huge.
The hell? And that's the negative side of console exclusivity, is that you'll have a whole generation who never got to experience any of these games. And the Saturn, keep talking about the Saturn, but the Sega Saturn is another great example. So many games locked to that console that no one can ever play ever again, because that's it. If you didn't play the originals, they're gone.
And wasn't Sega Saturn the best 2D?
Well, okay. So
wait, I forget. It was really known for its RPGs, right?
It was okay. Conceptually, now we're gonna go way back. It was meant to be the Super Famicom.
Yeah.
Okay? So it was meant to be the ultimate sort of thing, and during the development of it is when all the 3D processors start. Look, Sega, it's really sad. It's legitimately sad, but I mean, as sad as it is, they did so much to themselves. They really did so much to themselves. But because of the sort of everything that was happening with Sony and Nintendo, and the Nintendo PlayStation, and then all the stuff with Philips. All the stuff with Philips, the CDI, all that kind of stuff. All of this stuff was happening all at the same time, that they were oh crap, we need to add in 3D processors and this and that and everything else. And by doing all of this like late stage of the development of the console, it really hurt the console. Like
It did.
really,
It did,
really
yes.
did. But
And yeah, man, you're so right. And then that led into the really amazing system, was virtually arcade perfect, was Dreamcast. Remember that? First time I started importing, dude. That was such a great system.
I like it makes me sad to think that, like, you know, Sega, I think it's next gen, if I'm not mistaken, they will have been out of hardware longer than they were in it.
In hardware.
And that's so sad. Like, it's just so sad to think of that, where you're just like, oh man. But they did it to themselves. I mean, everyone, you know, I know no one likes, not a popular opinion. I know, you'll blast me in the comments, but it did start with Sega CD. It really did start with that. I know everyone's like, no, that was successful. It was successful a bit, but it ended up hurting the company so much because it was another platform they had to develop for. Then this whole 32X thing, then all the revisions when they came out with like the CDX, you know, like, which was a Genesis and like all that kind of stuff. When at the end of the day, all people wanted was like, just give me Sonic 4 and I'll be happy. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like it was like, you know, what is the saying, like hindsight's 2020 or whatever that is. Like, you know, now it's much easier for all of us guys to talk about this, and like, you know, we witnessed the downfall of the company. But, you know, like at that time when especially 32X, when that came out, I was like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Like,
and it's amazing though. And a little bit, we talked about this a little bit podcast many moons ago, but most people don't realize Sega was actually a U.S. company. It started, was Atlanta? I forgot its headquarters, but it started making gambling machines for military bases for the United States during the war to entertain the troops, right? Well, the U.S. outlawed gambling on federal properties and stuff. So basically, the founder of Sega's like, oh shit, well, what are we going to do? So they moved their headquarters to Japan, so where internationally they could still do the thing, and then the rest said history. So yeah, a lot of people don't realize that Sega was an American company. I don't know. I wonder if the modern Sega ever keeps history of their employees about its origins. Probably not. It's not that important. It's been so many years. But yeah, a little trivia for you guys. Sega used to be a U.S. company. I guess in theory it still is, but not really. Its heritage is long lost.
Yeah.
They started out as for military until the U.S. government said, "Nah, can't do that anymore." So like, well, we're moving to Japan.
But it's crazy. It's really crazy. It's like Nintendo, right? Like and like playing cards and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that they started out. And one of the biggest things years ago that made them basically go through the roof was they got the rights for Disney for a trading card game way back in the day, and that's, you know, the rest again. It's amazing to see that these companies, you know, start out completely different from their current versions. Nintendo's still hugely successful, but Sega's mostly a publisher, really.
They just posted they're going through some tough times, and they're going to be restructuring Europe because like a couple of the releases that they didn't do quite that well. But
fans definitely know Sega. Yeah,
it is interesting to me when I look at Nintendo that like they are one of the last bastions of like purely gaming.
And we still have to make an official where we talk more in depth about the changing of gaming and how Nintendo. I know Nintendo. We're going to be talking about that next, guys. Nintendo numbers, which is pretty impressive. They keep continuing making money, but long term, though, Jarrod, I don't. Hardware, as we know, it's going to be different. We know that, and we'll definitely be focusing on a real podcast because there's so much to discuss about that. But back to Sony, man. I tell you, I'm really happy that the Helldivers 2 did good, and that's good for them, and it just shows them that there's a lot of money to be made on other platforms, and we will need to see like I said, Sony said some years ago that they want PlayStation to be ultimately a brand storefront like Steam. They actually did compare them.
Like I remember like they were talking about like, you know, there should be like a PlayStation app where
Yep.
it's on every device. But we've been talking about this for years and years and years.
And it hasn't happened. They're still way behind, but they're making progress. But I don't know, man. We'll have to see.
Well, I don't know. We keep talking about all of this stuff, and we've been talking about this for what's like 20 years now about like Nintendo and the hardware and this and that. I swear to you, 10 years ago, no one thought there would be a PS5. No one.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone was like, no. The hardware is going to disappear and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Because it doesn't look like it. Right now, the sales, look, the highest selling Nintendo system in history. Like for console.
For Japan, yeah.
And no, but not even Japan. Worldwide, the Switch is now their number one selling console ever. So that goes directly against what we just said.
Yep. It's going to be interesting. Since we'll switch gears to that, we'll just give you guys the some numbers to put into perspective. And it's amazing how the Super NES didn't sell as much as I thought it did. But anyways,
I know. I surprised, just ladies and gentlemen, I surprised Tim today. And a lot of people do get surprised by that because they don't realize just how big Sega's impact was on the North American market. And it can't be understated that Nintendo basically lost almost 30 million sales to Sega. It's not that, and that's the thing. It's not that the market grew, because it didn't. It actually, well, okay, that's not true, because if you put PC Engine in there, it did grow a bit. But really, all the success that Sega had, came at Nintendo's expense.
Yep. God, you remember those old commercials Sega had? They had some great commercials.
Yeah.
What was it? Nintendo can't or something like that?
Yeah, it was Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, those were the days, guys. It kind of reminds me of the Apple versus PC.
I
we had some time
loved
ago.
those.
Remember those?
Man,
those
I
great.
loved those. They were hilarious. Those were great.
Yeah, you don't see those anymore. But let's switch gears. So great news for Sony. A lot more good news will be coming on them in the future, which is great for me because I don't have any PlayStation consoles anymore. So the fact that I can play their good titles day one is awesome.
Yep.
Nintendo Switch hardware-wise to date, or I think you said of December, right?
Yeah, December 31st. Yeah.
First. So it's a little, it won't trade drastically compared to now, but 139.36 million units sold for Nintendo Switch. That's insane, guys. And software is a huge amount as well. We won't dive too much, but yeah, software is insane. Their software sale compared to what the family computer NES in the US, huge difference. The Nintendo 3DS sold 75.94 million units. Surprising that the software didn't do as well as I thought it did, but hey, it's still respectful numbers. The Wii U, you ready for this, guys? 13.56 million. Yeah, and the software, well, poor Wii U.
No, the Wii U was bad.
Utter failure.
Yeah, that was really. I mean, Tim, on that slide though, they don't show you Virtual Boy, do they?
No, they don't. Yeah, that's probably
because I think Virtual Boy sold 2 million or something. It was really bad.
Really, really bad. And then, that was. I remember that garbage. It was a cool idea, but
yeah, it was a cool idea, but, and that's what I tell. I'm like, it was a cool idea. ... But yeah.
Now the Wii as we all know is pretty much standard for it was 101.63 million units, a decent amount of software sales. Actually, software sales are pretty comparable to Switch. Switch beat it for a decent amount, but yeah, it's pretty comparable. Now the Nintendo DS 154.02 million is really good.
That's the second highest selling system ever. PS2, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I'm right. PS2 worldwide sales, I believe it's still number one. Yeah, 158.
Yep. And its software sales are really comparable too. It's a little bit more than the Wii U. The Wii U. I'm sorry, not the Wii U.
I was going to say the Wii U. I sure hope.
Wii U is horrible. Wii software sales were 921.85 million units, compared to Nintendo DS's 948.76 million. And then down below is interesting, guys, is like the Game Boy Advance sold 81.51, 51 million units. Pretty respectful. Game Boy, wow, it sold a shit ton at 118.69 million units. Now here's where the sad news comes. Nintendo GameCube, 21.74 million. That was such a great system, guys. Such a great system, but unfortunately, people didn't like it. Nintendo 64 did okay, 32.9 million units.
Pause. Okay.
Uh-oh.
No, because that was really interesting, right? Because you could see, I mean, it was a straight decline that Nintendo had. Every generation that preceded the NES or the Famicom, basically, because it was like other companies were poaching their players. Now I know that the PlayStation was like 100 and let's see, PS1 lifetime sales 102.4 million. Okay, but say the number again for N64.
N64 was 32.93 million units.
Okay, you ready? Sega Saturn. 9.26.
Oh wow!
Yeah, man.
So that oof. So you could see how they were siphoning Sony and even Sega were siphoning
like
Nintendo. But
but the other way around, sales. Like because if Genesis was like over 30 million, so Sony came in and basically yanked all of Sega's fans and a ton of Nintendo fans, and then created this whole other adult market.
Yes, they did. And you gotta give props for Sony. And it's funny because Sony was technically going to partnership the PlayStation with Nintendo, but Nintendo again, I think we talked about that.
They
literally didn't show up at the show.
Yeah,
and Sony's sitting there like, imagine how unprofessional.
I know, right? Like I can just imagine Ken Kuraragi. I can just imagine him leaving that show and being like, "We're going to crush them."
Yes,
sort of thing.
Sony's like, we're going to crush them in Nintendo's arrogance. And it's funny that Nintendo's been able to recover, guys, because that's a big drop in sales.
Well,
like
keep
you said,
going,
it declined.
Going. Tell them the Super Famicom and the Famicom, because you'll see the
decline. So up until Super Famicom or Super NES here in the United States, in Canada, hardware 49.10 million units. The OG of OGs, the NES family computer, is 61.9 million units. So as you guys, like Jarrod said, it is definitely going down pretty drastically, not excluding handhelds, until the Wii. The Wii, we know what happened with that.
It's remarkable. It's truly remarkable, and you can't understate the NES, because people need to understand that the market had literally collapsed. Like Atari, Intellivision, ColecoVision, all this stuff was like, they had already done their sales, and it basically, like, the ground gave out under them. And so to get 60 million, of which, I mean, we'd have to look to see what the actual breakdown in North America was, but it's still, that's very significant, like very significant. And that's why, like, kudos, like, I will always give kudos where kudos is due. Nintendo basically reinvigorated the entire video game industry in North America, like, no question. But it's incredible how you and I met through the Nintendo message boards.
Oh, yes, we did. A little bit of trivia. That's how we and the other COE peeps met. God, they shut that down years ago. But I remember that. Jeez.
But it's crazy, dude, to think that Nintendo brought all of us together.
Yes.
And it's so funny that, like, I'm happy that Nintendo's doing well, and I really do. I don't want them to disappear. I really don't, because no offense to Sony or Microsoft or whatever, but they're not game companies, like, these are like Sony is an electronics company. And yes, of course, wonderful developers. Naughty Dog, one of my favorite developers, like, love those guys, but it's still not the same. You know, it's like Spielberg and all those classic directors will tell you, like, Hollywood studios today, it's not the same. Like, they're conglomerates of all these other businesses and whatever. It's not like the golden era where, what do? We make pictures, you know, sort of thing.
It's true. Nintendo's always going to hold a special spot. It's the only console I continuously get. I didn't get Switch at launch, but I'll probably get the Switch 2 because I hear it's backwards compatibility. That's something if they don't do, Jared, they're going to be a big mistake.
I don't know why. Ahmed was talking to me about that the other day too. Why would you not do that? Like, I don't get that, like, on their side, right? Where, like, I can understand sometimes with, like, you know, some of the big systems because it's expensive, right? And, like, let's be honest, It is. Like, I'll never forget PS3, where you actually, you know, the hardware was literally, there was a PS2 inside the PS3. But I really do hope if they're going to keep the same, like, architecture and stuff like that, then yeah, come on, guys. Like, please give us backwards compatibility just so that, you know, at least there's that legacy. But it's funny to hear you say that because you just said that you move on. You don't go back and play the games.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I still have a lot of Switch stuff I have to play. So if Switch 2 is coming out anytime soon, I'll just have to transition, which we'll be finishing up the podcast with some Switch 2 in rumors and stuff like that. Well, some of the things official. It will have an LCD screen, no OLED. Oh, it's a lot of fans are upset of, but it makes sense from a business standpoint. 2, they save cost. 3, down the line in a year or so, they'll just new version of the Switch 2 comes out with a better screen. Yeah. You could see the rinse and repeat that Nintendo's done for years, so it should be no surprise, guys. And honestly, I never play mobile. I've never played the only time I ever had handheld for the Switch was when I set it up initially, because you had to, if I remember right. Ever that, it's been docked. So I don't play mobile. I mean, I have no reason to. So for me, I don't care about the screen. But obviously, that's different for a lot of individuals.
Yeah, it's so funny, dude. Like, I'm like literally the exact opposite of you now. Like, 10 years ago, I was like TV only. Screw all this sort of stuff. Like, Steven was, like, of our whole gang there, Steven, hands down, was, like, the biggest, you know, like, portable dude, right? For me, like, I basically got a Game Boy because of Tetris, because it was the craze, right? And then it was basically, like, Link's Awakening. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I wasn't, like, the Game Boy guy. I was on the NES, or I was on the Super Nintendo, or whatever. Or the Genesis, or the whatever. I had a Game Gear as well, but again, I hated that thing. Like, it was just the refresh rate or whatever. Like, it was always like a blurry mess, and I was like, and it eats batteries, and I was like, I don't understand this thing. Like, you're like trying to like see, but today it's so weird. Like, I don't know, like, I'll still play on the, you know, I got my 4K TV and all that sort of stuff, and I love the thing, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, it's like, there's part of me where it's like, sometimes I just want to sit down anywhere, like, you know, lie on my bed, or just, like, whatever, and, like, with this little guy over here, like, this is pretty, like, it's pretty cool, you know, like this is literally a CPS 2, a CPS 1, so, like, I'm playing all the classic Capcom games now and stuff, and I'm like, this is friggin' awesome, and it has a dock, so you just dock, and there you go, and then, you know, like, so it's kind of like the best of all worlds. As for the Switch 2, in terms of, like, rumors and all this sort of stuff, I think we're going to hear something soon. I do think we're going to hear something, because I mean, if I look at the release schedule, it's starting to decline, right? Which is what we would expect at this point in time.
Right.
I do think, though, that Nintendo's done such a good job now of differentiating themselves, because it's been so many years now where they've been doing different things, that they can kind of do whatever the hell they want with regards to, like, console generations. Like, I don't think anyone cares anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think so. Because Switch 1's kind of underpowered. I don't think that even, look at the podcast with their sales. So we obviously know visuals are not indicator of success. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's any. I mean, dude, when is Nintendo ever going to officially release the stats of their systems? They stopped doing that years ago. It's like, that's annoying. You can get them from third parties, but I don't know. It's like they don't want people to know that it's underpowered. Everyone knows it's underpowered.
Yes,
Nintendo.
like,
It's no secret, dude. Come on. That company still amazes me with some of their choices, man. But hey, they're successful and big time successful.
Big time successful. Yeah, exactly. Like this whole thing with the LCDs and stuff. It's like, yeah, I know why they're doing that. It's to cut as much cost as humanly possible. Get your install base and then release an upgraded version later on when the rest of the components come down.
Exactly. Well, why don't they just do what the Steam Deck does, or other manufacturers does, offer a base cheaper, middle, and the upper? I don't know.
Because they're like that. There's one version, damn it. That's it.
Yeah. They've been the Nintendo's very conservative, which is great.
Well, hey man, like, you know, like what everyone's gonna tell us, like they clearly know what they're doing because they just dominated. Anyways, yeah. So there we go. Another podcast in the can, man. Boom.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Like I said, we're gonna do this weekly, Jarrod. So no hiding, Mister.
Yeah, me hiding. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and whatever else is happening. We'll catch you. I guess I can say we'll actually catch you next week. But like I say, I think I'm gonna put like the schedule might be a little bit messed up for just the next week or two until we get, you know, sort of like what we're gonna actually do. And that's that. So, all right, guys, we'll catch you next week. Take care, everyone.
Take care.